couple of weeks ago, Dan made reference to a pair of sunglasses that our friend Roger has for fishing. Special type of sunglasses that enable the angler to be able to see the fish in the water. And Dan talked about how amazing they were because they enabled him to see things that he couldn't see before. Now, I don't know about you, but I was intrigued by these sunglasses, and I went off and did a bit of research just to find out, one, what they looked like, and two, to find out what they did and why are they so important. And it's true that they are specifically designed to deal with unique lighting conditions that affect an angler and enables them to do what Dan said. But there's also another element to the glasses that is quite significant. The wearer of those glasses is also protected. They're protected from the UV rays that would affect the skin and also the eyes. So it feels like these glasses have got lots of different benefits. And Dan, and also what I'm bringing today, is saying is that we can sometimes look at the story of God and his people through a particular lens. And sometimes looking at this story through the lens of God's mission can be helpful in being able to see things, but also to protect us. And maybe we'll think about that another time. But Roger's glasses are really important for us as we think about this mission of God. And as a church community, church family, we are joining in with this mission of God. And we're going to look at it in one particular element today, but I want to draw our attention to a statement that we have that is what we call a vision statement. And you'll have come across some of these statements in different arenas that you're involved in, whether it's in school or business, or whether it's within your family. But as part of a church, we have designed a statement that reflects what we think we're all about, the big picture of what we want to see happening. And the phrase that we've used is that God's love reaches everywhere, transforms everyone, and changes everything. And it's that all-pervasive love of God that is flowing out of us as a community that enables us to reach, transform, and change. And today we're going to focus on one particular element, what it is to be human, what it is to be a human as part of the mission of God. Now, before I refer to the scriptures that we've already listened to, I want to tell you a story that may be familiar to some of you. You may have come across it either in terms of you read it to your children, or you've had it read to you, or you may have come across it in some studies and courses that you've been on. It's the story of the Velveteen Rabbit, a toy rabbit. And in this story, the toy rabbit speaks to the horse, the toy horse, and asks the question, what is it to be real? And the horse says, well, it's a thing that happens to you over a period of time and with love and play that you become real. And the rabbit asks, does it hurt? And the horse, because he's truthful, says, sometimes. And the rabbit says, well, does it happen bit by bit, or is it all at once you become real? And the horse says this, not all at once. You become, it takes time. By the time you are real, your hair has probably fallen out. Your eyes might have dropped off, and you have become very shabby. But you become real. And when you become real, it is impossible for you to be unreal again. For to become real, it is through relationships of love. And we are exploring what it is to be human on the mission of God. And in the scriptures in the book of Genesis, we are drawn into a phrase that is very powerful and dynamic. The phrase is this: we are made in the image and likeness of God. And I want to focus in on that phrase of the image of God. What is it? You see, in Scripture, at one level, there's no real definition of what it is to be the image of God. But there are clues that we can look at and things that we can surmise and we can affirm through this phrase. Because it is what we are. We are made in the image of God. It's not something that's added to us. It's not something extra given to us. It's not something that we can opt into or opt out of. We are made in the image of God. To be human is to be the image of God. Now, let's explore this in a little bit more depth and let's dive into this, because there seems to be 4 elements to this being the image of God. 1, we're addressable. That is, God can communicate with us. Regardless of our status, regardless of our wealth, regardless of our conditions, regardless of our ethnicity, regardless of our sexuality, God can communicate with us. We're addressable. We are accountable. That is, that we are to be judged for what we do and how we live. Because we are not just here by chance. And we'll come on to that a little bit later. We all have dignity. Every life, every human life made in the image of God is equally valuable. Now, for many of us in 2020, we are still fighting some battles around this about ensuring that we see the value of every human being and that it is true to say that every life is equally valuable. But back in those days, in the time of Moses, when this book was being written, there was a clash that was going on with the peoples around about them. And they were saying that certain people were of greater importance than others, and others yet were of no importance. But here in this story that tells a story, we are drawn into the truth that comes from God that says we are all made in the image of God. We all have dignity. We all should show respect for one another. And the 4th thing is that there's good news for all of us, because we know that there is selfishness within us. There is that ability to just go our own way. There's the ability to wander away from God. But in this story, we are reminded that because we are made in the image of God, we are not forever lost. The God comes seeking us and drawing us back. So there are 4 elements. There are also 4 tasks that are given to us as humans made in the image of God. One is to rule, to have dominion, to have power, to have authority within creation over the land and also the animals. We are to keep, we are to maintain, we are to ensure that God's creation is protected. We are to care, that is, allow it to be healthy and ensure health and sustainability within creation. That is the task that we are given. And we are also, lastly, called to multiply. That's a task for us, to multiply. Now, that's not just in terms of creating new human life, that is part of it, as we find in the story. But it's also an affirmation that being made in the image of God is that you are in the business of being fruitful. It is not enough to just stand still and enjoy your own life. It is to be this movement of life that is fruitful and multiplying. 4 tasks. Then there are 4 relationships. Relationship with God. We're made in the image of God. God gives us life, and we are in that relationship. You see, we were not created for relationship. We are created in relationship. And so when we're thinking about this, we need to understand that our whole existence is in relationship. It is in relationship to God. From the very start of our existence and our life on planet Earth, we are in relationship with God. We're also in relationship with people. The people who are being with us there at our birth and in the early years of our life. We're in relationship with them. And we're constantly in relationship with people through our life. But what seems to be the case with being made in the image of God is that these people around us and are with us are there not to deal with our loneliness, because sometimes you can still be lonely with people, can't you? It's not to do with that. It's to do with being a helper with the task. That's why people are with us. Yes, we love being with them and they're wonderful people, and we love people around us and our family and friends. That's great. But if we look back at what is in the mission of God, those people are there to help us in the task that we have. So we're in relationship with people. We're also in relationship with the land. Now, it's often been the case in evangelical Christianity that some of us have been part of for many years, that we talk about being in relationship with God, being in relationship with people. But we are also in this mission in relationship with the land. That which God has created is not something separate to God's creation. It's something that is part of it and that we are connected to it. We are in relationship with the land, and we are to be mindful of that in the task that we have. And the last one, the 4th relationship, is our relationship to ourself. Scripture says that we are to love our neighbour as ourselves. And so there is within this sort of navigating through Scripture, understanding that we're in relationship with ourselves and we are to care for ourselves and notice ourselves and be aware of ourselves in this mission of God. So that's to do with kindness, it's to do with care of ourselves, it's to do with being mindful of ourselves and looking out for our health and well-being. That is an essential part of this element of being made in the image of God. So we've had 4 elements, we've had 4 tasks, we've had 4 relationships, and there has to be a 4th element to this talk. There are 4 guidelines that I want to give you as we launch into this and explore this mission of God as humans. First of all, well, before I give you the 4 guidelines that I wanted to share with you, we need to be aware that we are human becomings, not human beings. We are developing and growing, and we're moving in a particular journey and destiny and destination. So let's be aware of that. We are becoming. And that can mean that we need to be kinder on ourselves and on others. But we are becoming. We are not beings. We are becomings. So let's follow the destiny. The destiny that's laid out for us is we are partners in the mission of God, that we are moving in that direction and we are linking in with that destiny. We're becoming real. Yes, it's through relationships. Yes, it's over time. Yes, it's through love and play that we become more and more real. But let's have that in our agenda. It's not becoming less and less real and becoming more and more fake and false, but actually we're becoming more and more real. Let's give ourselves to that. That it's not ability-based. It's a guideline for us. We can sometimes be drawn into thinking that the most anointed and fruitful and effective people are those who have got all sorts of physical abilities and mental abilities, and therefore they're in some way better than others. When we're talking about the image of God, we're talking about all life. We're talking about every human having value, of ensuring that we are not making any discriminatory choices and thoughts about one another based on physical ability or mental ability. The fact that we are made in the image of God is to do with our relationship with God as we seek to help others around us, as we seek to look out for the land around us, as we think about our self-care and ensuring that we are being mindful of who we are. And the last thing, which I love as a guideline, is to enjoy life. God looked at creation and he said it was very good. He said that after he'd created humans. So we are not nothing. We are not worthless. We are very good. And so let's enjoy life. There's a lovely story told of Julian of Norwich, where he produced a hazelnut and showed it to those who were listening to him. And he said, in this hazelnut, there are 3 things that God is telling me. God has made this, God has loved this, and God has sustained this. And he was pursuing this ability to be the image of God. And within it was the enjoyment of life. That's not to say we become selfish, that we become insensitive, that we become proud and arrogant, but that we enjoy the life that we have with God because we are made in the image of God. So let's give ourselves to this mission of God. That there are 4 elements of being in the image of God. There are 4 tasks that we're given. There are 4 relationships that we should nourish and sustain. And there are 4 guidelines for us as we seek to be humans engaged in the mission of God. Let's go for it and let's see what God does with us.